What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren. And today we got a good little comic book review for you as we are going to be talking about Dead Samurai. And that is going to be really, really fun to talk about. So, Lauren, let me bring you on in. We don't have a beer for this review, but we do have a lot of things to say. Why don't you take us through the what this comic book is about? So just dive right into it.
So just dive right into it. So this is the description. It is a story by John Dolmayan from System of a Down, and it's featuring cover art by Bill Sienkiewicz and internal art by Ryan Benjamin. There's also going to be some variant covers by Jim Lee, Art Adams, Frank Miller, Frank Cho, and more. So those are some big names. Those are probably some familiar sounding names. So this is the legit description, not our description. We will get into our opinions about it after we give you this. It is in 16th century feudal Japan. A leprosy-based infection that penetrates the brain has turned millions of humans into cannibalistic creatures devoid of morality or memory, better known as a zombie. A half-Japanese, half-Portuguese samurai named Shinzu has failed to defend his daimyo and his family from danger. Shamed beyond redemption, he resigns himself to seppuku, which is ritual suicide. We saw that in the movie The Wolverine before the atomic bomb was coming. Before he has a chance, though, he discovers that there is someone who has survived and he has a reason for living. I'm not going to say who because that's a spoiler. So that is basically the overall story. I thought this story was fantastic. It's a slow burn at first. It's very slow, but the beginning is very happy. This man has this wonderfully, very fulfilled life. He's a very kind soul, it seems like, because the man we just mentioned, Shinzu, is half Portuguese, half Japanese. Not everybody's okay with that, but this guy doesn't seem to have a problem with that. He just had a new baby. He's like, come, other children, come meet your brother. He seems to love his wife. And in a comic book, you know that they're not going to stay happy forever.
Nothing
Nobody's
ever
going to stay happy.
stays
So I was
happy.
just
No.
waiting. It's also one of those that starts something's going on and then it's like 3 days before, which I always love that because even some supernatural episodes would do that when they show like the clip at the beginning and then they do the opening scene and then they're like 2 days before. I am a sucker for that because
I do
it's
too,
like
because you're
we know
like,
where this is
oh,
going, but we have
shoot.
no idea.
Yeah. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
dang, what's this? And then it like, okay, how do we get here? Because you're like, oh, wow, shit's kind of hit the fan. But how did we get to this point? Like, how did we get to whatever it may be? And so go rewind. That's, I do love it. Big fan for sure.
Yeah. And when you're waiting for that like something bad to happen, like in Smallville, everybody knows Clark Kent's, Jonathan Kent dies. And I swear they were trolling us in
Yeah.
Smallville for the first 4 or 5 seasons where they kept almost making him die, but it's like you knew it was going to happen, but I think that kind of it builds anticipation, just waiting for that
Yeah.
shoe to drop.
No, I for sure agree. And you're right. It did start off a little slow, but I didn't have an issue with that. It was kind of like, oh, you were starting the day. It's peaceful. This is all cutesy and stuff like that. And then, they're spending time with their family and it's just like a serene, really kind of nice environment. And that's kind of when all hell
Yeah.
breaks loose. I mean, I liked that this was black and white because it allowed your, imagination to really kind of run wild with this, especially like building the scenery. Like, right, we're starting at the beginning, everything's happy, go lucky. And so you can kind of fill in the gaps. Your brain's kind of working. And I think when you do that, it submerses us into a story a little bit more as well by, igniting your imagination.
Right. Well, and we did get some pages that were color too. And like the
Yeah.
black and white was beautiful. And then the color, I was like, it was amazingly beautiful. And like with a comic book, if the art isn't great, it takes away from the story. And so the art did help the story, and that's what you want. You want that a great story, and you want the art to take that story and take it to another place. And yeah, I felt like it did. And Walking Dead was black and white at first, and it really does add a different element. But yeah, some of that, the color work that we saw too, was absolutely gorgeous. But zombie stories, people could argue they're a dime a dozen, but they have to be different to stand out. So this one, I think with the history and the Japanese culture, I think that it really took it to a different place. And that twist at the end, which I had to like go back and be like, wait, how did I miss that person surviving? Because obviously I wasn't the only one who missed the person surviving. There are people in the story that missed that
I
person
definitely
surviving.
missed
And I was
that
like,
person surviving.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it's it's interesting too, like you mentioned with the kids, like they were willing to go, full dark side. They were willing to go Order
I
66 in a
yeah,
sense.
they the kids die and they show like their bodies on the ground and stuff like that. It's not like, again, it's black and white, so you're not going to get like graphicness. But I mean, they do
Well, it's
show
not
the
as
kids.
bad as something's killing the children.
Very true. I just didn't expect them because with kids, like a lot of people shy away from like they always protect the kids for the most part. For the most part, not everything
Mhm.
does this, and I actually like that they.
Yeah.
I like that the kids died. Yeah, no, it's more of like okay, it gives the story purpose, and now they go down and they chop off, his head, and you're like, damn,
That
this is
was
crazy.
interesting. That whole
Yeah,
the ritual sacrifice thing, like, yeah, like we saw that but when they were doing it in the Wolverine, I was like, "Oh, they're doing this to avoid this, like, horrifically painful death," but this was like an honor suicide, and the way they do it with, the sword, I was just like, "Oof," but then they had a whole ritual, which is
yeah,
very interesting to see.
it was,
I
it
think
was cool. They did their research.
yeah.
I definitely feel like they did their research on this.
Oh, yeah, because there was you felt the culture is strong. I mean, it has to be is in the century it's in and the country it's in and everything that's going on. And I'm looking forward to seeing, like, how did this zombie virus get started? Because that's another thing that's often different. Sometimes we never learn why it got started. But
Yeah.
they described it, as a leprosy-based, zombie virus, but they didn't say zombie. I feel like nobody really says zombie anymore unless it's a
They
comedy.
always shy away from saying the word zombie, which is always interesting to me, I guess, like, especially in modern day pop culture, right? If you're actively it's zombies are real. Like, why don't you play into that? Like, I didn't know zombies were real. Like, talk
Right.
into that, not be like, what is this thing? And oh my God. It's like, no, man, like it kind of makes it fun
Yeah. Well, in
in a
this, it
way.
makes sense because it's so long ago. But
Well,
like in The
right. This
Walking Dead,
is
you're like, in all these seasons, not one child or one person has been like, this is like Night
I
of the
mean, you
Living
don't
Dead or this is
yeah,
zombies
like you don't have zombies or anything like zombie lords. At least in like
or revenants.
DC, Marvel, like superhero stuff, they actually kind of reference like comic books being a thing, which I think is makes sense because you can still reference like I don't know. Going on a
Was it?
tangent.
No, there was a nod. Was it to Invincible? I think one of Rick's kids was reading an Invincible comic in the show in The Walking Dead. So I think
Yeah,
there was a little nod to that. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe there was a Robert Kirkman comic being read by somebody in The Walking Dead at some point, which I love that little Easter egg. But getting
for
off
sure. I do
topic,
too.
so yeah, I feel like the way this story started and then it ended, I feel like they're setting it up for a lot of fun because we only know what happened in this specific area, and the way that it's spread in this one issue, you could see how quick it could spread. I mean, look how quick COVID spread, or anytime a kid at this. Good lord, if you have children, the
It
first
spreads like
few weeks of
wildfire. Yeah.
school, they're all sick. I remember Logan having the kindergarten
God.
crud, is what the
Yeah.
pediatrician called it. I'm like, just fix him. He hasn't been not snotty
What's
for a
wrong
month.
with him?
But if all it takes is this little bite and then people turn, it's yeah, you're screwed, for lack of a better
Just
term. There
one
is better
bite.
terms.
Once you pop, the fun
But
don't stop.
yeah, so it's like, only the people in the remote places are going to survive, kind of thing, and they're going to be quicker to be vulnerable to it because if they don't have the information. And this is taking place in a time where there is no news, there is no internet, there is
Oh
no,
yeah.
what are you going to do? Like send, pigeon? So it's you got to spread the word and prepare people, and
The beacons
yeah,
are
I'm looking
lit.
forward to seeing
Gondor
more.
calls for aid. Yeah, you're right. But you can find this. Torpedo Comics is actually where this is from. And we will put down in the link down where you can actually find this. It's really worth a read. And I'm excited to kind of get more from this world because I think a zombie outbreak in samurai feudalistic Japan, it lends itself to a really good story. In the research, there's a lot of care and things that went into this research. So take the time, definitely check this out. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Lauren, any final thoughts?
If somebody's trying to bite you, just don't let them. Never ends well.
Doesn't. It really doesn't. Just run away or go for the head, man.
Yes,
Always go for the head.
yes.
They figured that one out really quick. Thank God. But yep, check this out. We will see you guys next time with more comic book reviews. Cheers.